welcome back to Stories from the River. This is Charlie Maloof, host of the podcast and president and CEO of Broad River Retail. Hey, I want to get into something that we call store classifications. This is a topic we haven't really addressed before, but again, going to kind of let you guys peek behind the curtain and see how we do things. Talk about the Broad River way and what's worked for us. And hey, if you can glean an idea that helps you and go for it, knock yourself out. So this is our just kind of give back to the industry and to other retailers or folks operating stores.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
So back in 2015, by the way, we were known as Broad River Furniture at the time. I just learned that not everyone knew that we were once called Broad River Furniture. I'll give you a quick aside on that. We like to say this thing. I like to say this thing that says purpose begins with identity. And back in 2017, we changed our identity. If you recall, there was a lot of talk about the retail apocalypse at that time. And so we said, you know what? We're going to run to the fight. Just like David ran quickly to the fight against Goliath, we're going to run to the fight. We're actually going to put it in our name. So we rebranded ourselves as Broad River Retail. I think this was around 2017. Purpose begins with identity. And so we changed our identity and we said, we're going to think like a retailer. We're going to force ourselves to be a retailer all the time. And so we're not just a furniture company, we're a retail company. And it wasn't sexy to be a retail company at that time. It wasn't what maybe Wall Street would say to put in your name, but we said, we're going to put it in our name. We're a little bit counterculture like that. And so maybe that pegs a little bit to our DNA. We're going to do what we think is right and not what's right in the moment. And so with that, I'll get back into the topic du jour here, which is core stores and store classifications. So I started on the last episode talking about how in 2015 we changed from human resources to human capital. Well, one of the things we also said is, hey, we've got to win in our core stores first. And at that time, I remember we designated 7 stores as our core stores. And I think we said, we had to reset everything. We actually started a 100-day challenge. We called it our bold reset at this time, summer of 2015. Some of our memory makers may recall this. We weren't even called memory makers at that time. But we did a bold reset and we classified our stores because all our stores were looked at evenly. And we said, no, we're going to classify them based off of revenue. And so we started with 4 classifications. This was bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Let's see if I can remember the designations. Bronze, I believe, was like a under $6 million a year store. Silver, I believe, was $6 to $9 million a year store. Gold was $9 to $12 million a year store, and platinum would be $12 million plus. And so I think we had 7 stores that time that would have been gold and above. And we said, hey, you know what? We've got to have our best people, our best talent, our best leaders, our focus in our core stores first. If everything's broken and we got to choose where to focus is a finite resource is something that we believe. I learned this from Jonathan Ishii, our former president and CEO and my former business partner. I said, where are we going to focus first? We're going to focus in the core stores. Let's go win those first. And so we said, okay, let's make sure that we've got our right talent and the right staffing and go win in the core stores first. Man, that has really morphed over time. It's taken on a life of its own. And let me tell you how we've put muscle and teeth behind it. The bonus levels are different based off of the store that you are in. Also, it gives us career pathing at the GM level. You can start at a bronze level store and then get promoted into a silver store where your base salary moves up, where your bonuses move up, then to a gold store, and then to a platinum store. Also, you can get your store promoted. It's super transparent. This is what you need to achieve over this 6-month period. We now do it in rolling 6-month periods, and you can get your store promoted. By the way, if you're not operating within 90% of the designation, you can also get your store demoted. And we've had, unfortunately, sometimes we have some of those. We've had a whole lot more store promotions. And that's just shows the power of having a goal and attaining it. So you can get yourself promoted in the same store by moving up in the revenues, and the game is set. Everyone knows what the rules are. It's fully transparent. It's not someone just kind of making it up on emotion or feel. It's based off of math. This is the math of how it is. Go get yourself promoted, go get the store promoted. And so now we've got more complexity because stores have really pushed the revenues up. So we've got copper stores because we're willing to open up smaller stores. And those are, I think, 3 to 4.5 million. Then bronze, 4.5 to 6. Then we go into the silver, which is, I believe, still 6 to 9. Gold, 9 to 12 million annualized revenues. Platinum is now 12 to 15 million. But if you get to 15 million a year, now you become titanium. And if you go, and that's again in $3 million annualized increments. If you go if you get to 18 million, become diamond. And then, and these kind of peg to like maybe ski slopes. Although I'm not a skier, they peg to ski slopes. And if you eclipse 21 million, you get to black diamond. And we've got stores at all levels now between black diamond and copper. And so we're willing to go at different levels of stores, and this may be different based off different levels of staffing or retail experience. And by the way, this also lets us afford, sometimes we may have co-GMs in a certain store or two GMs, but we know because we've classified our stores differently, we've set them up differently, we've allowed them to promote themselves, we have different earning potential based off of the store and the revenue that they create, that we can afford different staffing levels. We may have 2 GMs per store, but we might have 3 GMs in certain stores that are at a different classification. So I really think taking a math-based approach to your stores and to their classifications, instead of saying every store is cookie cutter, every store's looks the same. All of this pegs to our market share goal, right? We have a certain market share goal, so we're going to attack the market with different ways, different retail models, different real estate models, different store sizes, different store footprints, different foot traffic, different staffing levels, different store concepts. And I'll get into those in a future podcast. But just on store designations, now you can get yourself promoted. And then, hey, maybe you're the GM of a titanium store, but we've got a nearby copper or bronze store. Maybe now you become a senior GM and you've got 2 stores that you're overseeing. So it gives you a growth path. And then if you do 2 stores and you take those on and you do them really well, now maybe you move into overseeing 3 or 4 stores as an area manager, where you don't have a specific box that you're overseeing or a team, but multiple teams. And we've had people we have people get promoted every single year, whether from a GM to a senior GM or senior GM to an area GM. It goes to what I talked about last episode, which is on career pathing at every level at retail, every level in our company. So we have career pathing at the general manager level, which didn't used to be the case. Used to just be like, hey, you're a store manager or you're an MIT, manager in training. But now we've got career pathing based off of your store designation. And then this gives us the differentiation we need to really understand how we need to go approach a store, where we need to go when. And it's really allowed for a lot of growth, and our GMs boosting their own income, because like I said, the base pay and the bonus pay, which is a huge component of their earning potential, is based off of the store designation. So that's how we look at store classifications, and then if I take that a little bit further and I come back to what I started the episode is purpose begins with identity. And so we have this identity as Broad River Retail, but now we have every single store and now every single distribution center and now every single department has their own identity, which has a branded logo. And so, stores aren't known as Store 321. They might be known as the Cary Crushers, or they're not known as Pineville. They might be known as the Flagship Enterprise. And the GM and their team come up with their own identity, the identity that is meaningful to them, or our departments come up with the identity that really reinforces who they are, gives them something to kind of really just start with, hey, we're not just the supply chain department, and I'm not going to give this one away because Brian hasn't unveiled it yet, or we're not just the retail operations, we're the wizards, right? And so we've got different identities that peg to different types of departments or stores, or like I've talked about in a previous episode, the Fort Mill Otters or the Spartan Ridge Bruins or the Four Oaks Falcons. These are distribution centers that have their own identities. And maybe we'll do an identity episode here in a future episode, but that's a little bit on store classifications that still also pegs to this concept of career pathing and human capital and growing. And so that's a little bit about how we set up the game at Broad River Retail. Thanks for joining and listening. And hopefully you enjoyed these little bits of peek behind the curtain on how we set up the game at Broad River Retail. Thanks for joining on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, Google, or Apple. We try to bring you fresh new content at Stories from the River every week. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.